Hey, what's going on? Welcome to this week's live stream. As always, hang with me for just a minute. We're going to watch LinkedIn. We're going to make sure this thing's working correctly, and then we're going to engage. So give me just a sec. The delay between what they use on StreamYard and LinkedIn is right there. Hey, it shows that we are going live. That is spectacular. There I am. I'm going to get rid of that now. Okay, we are live. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to Dr. Dewitt's World Headquarters live from Houston, Texas. Now look, I don't know where you are. I can tell you this, though. It's cold in Houston, Texas. It's about 47 degrees this morning. I don't know what that sounds like to you, but 47 degrees Fahrenheit anyway is absolutely frozen by Texas standards. Now, I'm enjoying it. A whole lot of people are like, are they going to cancel everything today? Because they think it's just unbearable. I love it. I love this town, but when you get cold weather, it's a beautiful thing. I want to start by following up on something from the last stream before we jump into this session's topic. Last time I mentioned that the news is too heavy, and it's very easy for a lot of us to get into negative spirals when we read about, well, politics and the left and the right and the difficulties we all face in this world. I don't want you to overindulge in that. I do want you to care about it, read the news, and be informed. That's very important. On the other hand, don't overindulge. So I mentioned a news site that was very positive. Listen, there are many news sites that are terribly positive out there. And I remembered after I did it once, actually what my favorite is. It's one of the most popular ever. And I started sharing this with my MBA students years ago. And it's GNN. That's Good News Network. Let me give you the address. Good News Network, all one word, goodnewsnetwork.org. Check it out across many different topics, including business. They have positive news about good things that are happening around this world that'll make you find it a little easier to build a positive perspective. Hey man, what's that worth? I'm very excited to be with you for this session. Demetrios, what's up, brother? Athens, Greece, how are you? As always, I'm blown away by the amazing diversity that shows up here. Okay, as you know, we have moved into a new schedule. We're doing this every other week instead of every week. At least that's what we're trying for now. It's going well. If you like what we do, hey, good news. This is going to be posted as a video on LinkedIn and on YouTube. Don't forget to go over to the Dr. Dewitt YouTube channel and check out this video and the others that I've created just for YouTube. I hope you find it useful. Speaking of positive news, I'm feeling excited. I was down this morning. I'll spare you whatever weird things that were going on here, but I was having a moment where I wasn't feeling engaged the way I know I want to be when I meet you. And so I started looking up some old rock music. Why? I'm an old white guy. Look at me. We like rock and roll, classic rock. And I found out, well, I was reminded about something I had forgotten that I learned recently. AC/DC is about to come out with a new album, and I was listening to their new single. It's called Shot in the Dark. So for all 6 of you who might care about AC/DC, go check out Shot in the Dark. It sounds like classic AC/DC, and it made me smile and feel like this. So I'm very, very happy. Hello, Boston. What's happening? Good to see you. Ronnie Shoemake. Good to see you as always, sir. All right, so I have a lot going on. As you know, one of the biggest things is that in the next, in the next few weeks, we're going to launch a new book. It's called Live Hard. If you will go to Amazon.com or just check my feed on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way to do this. You will see that we've placed a link there to the pre-sale version of that book on Amazon. Check it out. It's called Live Hard. If you like to show your ink, you dig the stories that I tell. It's kind of a signature thing I do. Instead of books that are highly formulaic, I do a little of that. I really rely on stories, and this is a book of 20 new stories I think you're really going to enjoy. One of them is kind of the topic of today's session. I'm very excited about that. Wade, good morning, sir. Good to see you. I'm very excited about that. There's a story called Dance Anyway, which is a beautiful phrase that you'll understand in just a minute. Dance anyway. And the truth is, we all feel compelled in many different social circles where we travel to fit in. Now, let me start before I rip this up. Let me start by saying that makes you socially intelligent. You're supposed to care about meeting the expectations of others, about not causing problems, about somehow being reasonable in the face of the social norms that surround you. Yeah, that makes you socially intelligent and a reasonable person. I'm going to allege, which I often do, that we overindulge in that nicety and it causes a problem in your life. And I'd like to address that in just a little bit. Hey, what's happening? We got Argentina. We got London. It's great to see you, all of you. Wonderful that you're here. Oh my goodness, such a diverse group. I love it. Okay, hey, Minnesota. Jill, how are you? I miss Minnesota. I was a Burnsville person for 7 years outside of Minneapolis. Good to see you, Jill. So, fitting in. Listen, I want you to think back just to make you understand how important and ever-present this particular topic is. I want you to think back to your school days, okay? Stop looking at that mature person in the mirror. Get past the gray hair. If you have some, you might be able to see me today. I've got a little shadow going. I look young, 10 years younger when I'm shaved. Can't you tell? If you were to see me with some real hair, you would notice, number one, I'm not bald. I actually have a decent head of hair. It's going a little thin and it's graying big time. But if you get past that, stop for just a minute and think back to being a kid. I want you to think about the pressures that you felt. I believe that so many of us, especially as parents, if you're a parent, you'll know what I mean. We often forget about the daily trials and tribulations of what it was like to be 8, 9, 10, 11, 14, 17, college age. We forget that. We kind of remember the best things we want to remember about being carefree and having no burdens and how easy life was and the joys of loving mom and dad or whatever it might have been that you remember to feel really positive and functional on a given day. Guess what? There's more to it. And if you'll think, you'll recognize this. There were cliques, there were social circles you belonged to, and social circles you did not belong to. Can you feel me? Listen, as you listen to me unfold this rant today, if you have a comment, drop it in there. If you have a question, put it in there, and I'll do my best in just a minute to get to it, I promise. Listen, there were cliques, there were groups. Some we loved, some we didn't know about, some we couldn't stand, some couldn't stand us. That was life as a young person. Doesn't matter where you went to school. Doesn't matter your geography, doesn't matter your gender, doesn't matter your race, doesn't matter your socioeconomic status. That is a real honest thing that applied to all of us. You know, it applied to all of us. And I fit in some, didn't fit in others. But what I got to tell you is we spend a little too much, maybe a lot too much time trying to fit in, instead of trying to be who we are and allowing ourselves to gravitate to the circles where we more naturally fit. That same thing we've forgotten about, maybe even tried to deny from our youth, really does define, there we go, most of our adult life. You go to work and you think it's just a whole new thing, so different than high school. Not really. I've made the joke many times that work is just, you know, it's kind of adult daycare, let's be honest. And there are circles and cliques and groups at work, just like when we were little kids. I want you to know that understanding them, looking for them, thinking about how they're defined and how they function makes you smart. But expending great effort to try and respect them and fit in with them under their rules, suppressing who you are, not using your voice, not expressing the way you want to. There are limits you have to place on that. I've got a quote. I like to give away a lot of free inspiration. If you go to my website, drdoit.com, you'll see a tab on there for free inspiration. I used to sell some of these, but you know what? The truth is they're so popular and they build momentum around these messages we care about. I started just giving them away, and I'm excited about that. So go check out the tab that says free inspiration and share this with your team. Share it with your organization. You're going to find a quote on that page that says, when you march to the beat of your own drummer, people usually want to join the band. Think about that for a minute. Now, I don't want to be overly simple. I like candor and I like to be brutally honest. It's a part of my brand and my personality that I like sharing with you. But if you're going to be optimistic about it, the truth is that marching to the beat of your own drummer, being you instead of overtly trying to fit in, does long-term benefit you. Yeah, short-term bumps in the road, yes, risks that might be involved for sure, but it's still the best strategy. And it's because, well, there's a few reasons that this is true. People, not all of them, but the ones you're probably going to care about, People respect your conviction. They respect someone who's brave. They respect someone who has a take, has a perspective, looks unique, stands on their own, doesn't just follow the crowd. You can say it however you want to. Not everyone's going to love that. Some will be scared of that. So let me ask you a question. Do you want to hang around them? Do you want to let them define your professional life any more than you wanted them to define your happiness and success as a young person? The answer, I hope, is no. Because marching to the beat of your own drummer is a whole lot more fun, whether it's AC/DC or someone else that you're listening to. Hey, Andrew from Sussex, what's happening? Emmanuel, Brazil, how are you? Francis, Las Vegas. Got another person from Peru. Never stops amazing me. Thanks for being here, everyone. So listen, I was once normal. And what I mean by that is I probably overinvested as a young person, like most young people, in caring about fitting in and caring about not offending. And that comes from a good place, and it's partially useful, and it's important to say that. But something happened. I think the biggest event for me, what was it for you? Think about this, because I want our time together to be reflective, not just me pontificating. For me, one of the big moments that helped shift my perspective and then later shift my life was basketball. I was really good at basketball when I was young, good enough to get maybe a Division III scholarship. That means something to those of you in the U.S. But that was about it. I wasn't going to be any better. And I finally decided to give it up. I turned down a couple scholarships to go play ball and decided to be my own person and to go chase the question marks that I wanted to chase. And as soon as I made that decision, something strange happened in my head. Something wonderful happened in my head. I realized that everything is yet to be defined by me. And that the expectations of others, while I could use them, didn't define me. And that was liberating. I say this to you as you think about your relationship with your kids, your parents, your loved ones, your spouses, your employees, your bosses, etc. Their expectations matter. They do not define you because you are the most important member in the band. Think about that for just a minute. In fact, across cultures, how much you believe in me, how much this is a value that matters varies. In some places, it's very important. We think of the West in particular when we think of this type of expression. But even in the East or the Middle East or anywhere, this matters. People get it. I know that because I'm connected to you in so many different ways. People get it. But culture sometimes presents new challenges for us. Just like there's culture at work, there's geographical constraints that tell us how we're supposed to feel about this. Well, I can't answer that puzzle for you. I can only tell you it is a puzzle and you have to struggle with it, and I want to help, so here it goes. It's more fulfilling long-term to attract your tribe, not because of just good work, but because of how you do the good work, which is about being who you are instead of always acting like you're someone else. Here's a hilarious fact. Now, you've heard this before, I think, from me, since I talk about authenticity so much. It's amazing how much we act every day when in fact, none of us, or almost none of us, we're trained to be actors. We take voluntarily this burden with us every day to act the way they think we're supposed to act, he thinks we're supposed to act, she thinks I'm supposed to act, etc. Well, that makes you a decent person who doesn't want to offend and who wants to fit in. Great, but that's this valuable. It's not this valuable. You really want them to know where you stand more than the fact that you can express understanding of where they stand. Because when they respect you, then you start to negotiate a shared reality and you start to have an impact on the culture instead of just being subject to the culture. How's that? Doesn't that sound fun? Think about this. Here's the story, not the event. The event was basketball and giving up the sport so that I could kind of become my own person and start, marching to the beat of my own drummer. But there's a story in the book called Dance Anyway. And the truth is I went to a party in college. I was with my girlfriend at the time, and it was a boring party. It was her friends. I didn't know most of them. And it was stiff. And I was wearing, ripped blue jeans and a leather jacket, which was cool, kind of back in the day. And I didn't know many people. And I'm not going to lie to you, there was a little bit of beer involved. Hey, everybody, I've got India in the house now. Great. Buenas tardes. Good to see you. I was trying my best to have a good time, but it was hard. Conversations really weren't happening. People were doing the wallflower thing. And, there was a little bit of beer involved. I admit it. And then the soundtrack they were playing on the stereo. Now, some of you know what a stereo is before everything was on our phones. The soundtrack on the stereo finally played a great song. If I remember correctly, and I'm pretty sure this is true, it was Bizarre Love Triangle by New Order. Great song. It's so danceable, uplifting. I love that song. And I couldn't resist, and I decided to stop. And I don't know why I did this, because it wasn't typical for me, but it helped me turn a corner, and I want to share it with you because I want you to turn a corner too. And so I walked over to that person's stereo, did not ask permission, and turned it up. Now, I didn't go Spinal Tap. I didn't turn it up to 11, but I turned it up a lot louder than it was because it's a great song. I'm in the den of someone's house. I didn't know no one on that den rug was dancing. And well, thanks to music that was inspiring, and thanks to a moment of being really carefree and a desire to cut loose and a couple beers, I started to dance all by myself. Closed my eyes in a circle on the den rug, didn't care who saw me, didn't care who joined in, didn't care what comments might have been made. I just wanted to be gone, lost in that beautiful song, feeling it just joyously. Conversations hadn't happened, so I was going to dance and feel good about it. And I opened my eyes about a minute later. True story. Opened my eyes about a minute later, and my smiling girlfriend and a couple of her friends were with me, and they thought it was bizarre and insane and hilarious that I was dancing by myself with my eyes closed. And they joined me. And then a couple other people joined us. And a couple other people joined us. And by the end of that song, the room was full of dancing, crazy people gyrating to the best of our ability. And it made an impression on me. Not about what it means to influence others, which I inadvertently did, but follow me, but about not caring whether or not I'm influencing them. Now, I spend a career influencing. I know that. I'm not belittling it. I'm saying there's more to peace of mind, happiness, than trying to influence others. There's first trying to understand, love, appreciate, be cool with who you are. I closed my eyes that day, not to influence, but to actually try and just think about the song, my mood, a smile, and do what I wanted to do, no matter how anyone else felt. And it worked out. It doesn't always work out. It doesn't always work out. I could spend a few more hours telling you examples about that, but I want to inspire a little more than I want to create fear. And so I'll share that good example. I got to tell you, it's about not caring. And it's bizarre when you see people watch you not care, because sometimes they'll love what you're standing for and support you. Other times they'll still support you just because you had the guts to go ahead and stand up for whatever the issue was, whatever the moment, whatever the behavior was that you wanted to. I remember another example. I wrote some version of this in the story in the book. I was a little bit older. This was when my oldest son, Paxton, he was, if I recall, 14 years old in this story. He's 17 now. And amazing, by the way. Anyhow, he was 14. And I went over to his mother's house. As many of you who followed me know, I am divorced and remarried. My first wife, my favorite ex-wife in the world, is the joke. Her name's Laura. We're still great friends. And I went over to her house to find Pax, pick him up. He was playing basketball in the park right next to their house. And I was waiting. I had my wife, Cheryl, with me, and we're just watching him and talking. And eventually, Laura, the ex, came home, and she came over actually on her bicycle. We saw her approaching because she had come home a few minutes earlier and went for a ride, but she stopped to talk to us for a little while. And so there's the three of us watching Paxton play ball. We're about to pick Pax up and go somewhere. I'm like, Pax, let's go. And he didn't want to leave because he had his music blaring, and he's playing basketball, which he loves just like I do. And he begrudgingly came over there with his eyes kind of rolling, like, why are you old people bothering me? Any of you parents, can you relate to this? Why are you bothering me? And I said, let's go. And then the three of us are doing what we do, me, Cheryl, and Laura. And we're gabbing and we're gabbing and we're gabbing. And he just kind of walked away. I don't blame him, really. He walked away, started playing ball again and listening to his music. His music is rap music. He is a man of his times. Ours, old white people, we were listening to 80s music and rock and roll. But that day it was mostly 80s music on Laura's speaker. Laura had something on her bicycle, a little speaker, and it was blaring our music. And he didn't like that. So he walked away. It's kind of funny what happened next. We had to go. Laura said she had to go. Cheryl and I knew we had to grab him and get out of there. So I said, let's go. And he walked over, Matt, this time again. And he just looked at me, and I didn't like the expression. His mother didn't like the expression. And I said something to him about it. Hey, what's wrong? And he just rolled his eyes like he didn't want to go. And I said, what, you don't like our music? He goes, and he said something disparaging about our music. The song that was playing was Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time, and he did not like that song. He turned his speaker back on right there in our presence and started playing Drake. Do you remember Controlla? That was the song. A fine song, by the way. He started playing it, and I couldn't believe he did that. And so I'm a dad. I reached over because it was a little rude and I didn't want to hear his song. And I grabbed the speaker from his hand. I turned it off. And about the time I did that, something magical happened. Something magical happened. The song from Cyndi Lauper ended, and the next one on whatever internet radio station Laura's radio was tuned to started playing. You know what that song was? It was Rick Springfield's Jesse's Girl, right? That intro guitar riff. I looked at her, she looked at me, we looked at Cheryl, she turned up hers nice and loud, and I said, "Kid, we gotta go." And he said, "I don't want to." And I said, "Stop being a smart aleck or I'll." And he said, "You'll what?" He was being funny. He thought he was being funny. I thought he was being a little disrespectful. I said, "Or we will dance." Now, we're in a neighborhood context. There's 20, 25 people, big neighborhood, busy, lots of moms, a few dads, lots of kids, all walking around a park right by us. They can see us and watch our interaction. And I said that, and he rolled his eyes like, "Whatever." And I just looked at the two ladies with me, and I started dancing. And like it was planned, both of them started gyrating. Three middle-aged, really not great dancers started gyrating. We just decided to do what we wanted to. Back in college, I couldn't dance when I started trying at that party, but I danced anyway. That day with Paxton, I couldn't dance any better. In fact, I'm a lot worse. But I had two partners who got it. They just got it. And all three of us danced. And Paxton was so embarrassed. He walked straight to my car, got in and shut the door because people were watching us now. And in fact, true story, an older woman, maybe 60, 65, walked by us as she was walking through the neighborhood, saw the whole thing, high-fived my wife like, "Good for you guys." Listen, if you want to be the most authentic, productive version of yourself, you're going to please some people. You're not going to please others. This conversation reminds me so much of marketing, frankly, because when you build a brand, you are, by definition, saying, "Here's what I'm all about," which attracts certain people. But by definition, that also means you're not doing these things and you're repelling or not attracting, maybe even repelling others. A brand doesn't appeal to everyone, nor does a person with a personality and interests and behaviors that we show. No. And I'm here to tell you that's okay, because you're not supposed to please everyone all the time and use all of your limited energy trying to do that. Thank you, Jill. I appreciate it. And if I wish you guys, frankly, could see video of those two instances, especially the college one where I looked half cool. The one with my kid, Pax, that was not cool, but it was so awesome to have two of my favorite ladies there with me who somehow got it. We didn't have to speak about it. We just got it. The three of us started dancing, and he was just, oh my God, embarrassed, and he walked away. And it was awesome. Why? Because once again, we were doing what we wanted to do, what defined us, what made us happy, and what happened afterwards is what happened, because that's the nature of being you. You can't control it completely. But what I can tell you from a career perspective is that over time, yes, you have to care about social norms. No, you can't get up at your next meeting, start dancing, and when people look at you strange, go, "Look, man, Dr. Do It told me to do this." No, that's not what I'm saying. You do have to show some respect to the rules, the norms, the precedents that guide the social circles where you dwell, both at home and in the neighborhood, in the community, and at work. But you can't overinvest in them. And the real question is whether or not you're going to be brave enough to go ahead and inject a little you into those situations, because something fascinating happens when you do. People get to know you. Number one, they like to respect that uniqueness and that conviction. They often are more likely to reciprocate as well when you do that. And for a person who talks about leadership in teams a lot, I got to tell you, when others start to reciprocate just a little bit, it's not about people trying to be clones anymore, which we see way too much of at work. Yes, men and clones define so many work cultures. But once they see you kind of marching to the beat of your own drummer, they start to do their own version of that. And then over time, what you're doing is evolving a more productive, a more authentic culture. To have an authentic culture doesn't mean that everyone looks the same, does the same thing. It means that we're building rapport based on being genuine. That's all it means. And I can promise you this, as an org scholar, as a practitioner who sees a lot of people, talks to a lot of people, that means your conversations will be different. And very likely over time, you're going to have people who are more productive, more willing and able to take risks on behalf of each other, which means you actually have a shot at getting past the rhetoric of creativity and innovation and change, and enacting a little bit of that right where you work. What's that worth? I love that. I love that. Wonderful. Comments posting up. Good stuff. Actually had one question even before we began today. So here's, maybe I heard two questions. Here's the most important one to me. What happens when you do this? I can hear, anytime I'm preaching, I can hear someone with the wait a minute comment. What happens when you do this and people don't like it? Now, are you telling me, Todd, you want me to do something that is got a little risk, something that could make someone feel, puzzled about who you are, question your motives, wonder why you're acting that way, or why you said that thing, or why you dressed that way, or whatever it might be? Yes. I'm telling you to be smart and do it this much. Don't do it zero. Don't do it this much. Respect the norms of where you work and do it a little. And when someone doesn't like it, listen carefully. That's okay. You do not always have to be perfectly accepted. And if you expect that, you're crazy. Let me go ahead and tell you, as a performer, I think of myself mostly as an educator, but in many ways, I'm also a performer. Listen, as a performer, I can tell you, you will never be universally loved. Singer, actor, sculptor, painter, speaker, writer, doesn't matter. You will never be fully loved. There will be people who don't know who you are. Lots of them, most of the planet. There will be people who know who you are and don't care at all. There will be people who know you are and don't really like you. There will be people who like you, hopefully a lot of them, right? And they won't like you full time. They only like you part time, or like a few things that you do, but not a lot of what you do. There will be other people who like almost everything you do, but not all the time. And sometimes they're just not in the mood for you, etc., etc., etc. Nobody hits 100% all the time. That should never be your expectation. You should know that that's normal, because the more you accept that that's normal, the more it's okay to get past those moments where being the normal you isn't somehow applauded. And that's okay. You go back and remind yourself of what we just talked about, and then you process it. You say to yourself, that's okay. I'm not going to use that moment. I am not going to use that moment as an excuse to go censor heavily and stop being me. No. I'm going to remember that being all the authentic me I can be, in fact, long term, kind of moves some people away who maybe need to move a couple extra feet away from me, and brings in other people, attracts other people a little bit closer to me. Personal life, professional life, I'm oversimplifying maybe that much. This is the way it works. If you really want to build a tribe, a word that's been overused lately, but it's a good word. If you really want to build a group that understands you, helps you chase the things you're chasing, believes in chasing a lot of those things themselves, then you can't do it by putting on an act. So unless you're watching me and you've got a degree and you're a bona fide thespian, stop acting. Just stop it. In fact, when I wrote Live Hard, that was one of the driving concerns I had. I thought about you and how I watch you struggle at work every day, trying to manage impressions correctly, as opposed to being a little more authentic. And what I realized is that if you just stop acting, how do you do that? Well, we started talking about it today. Certainly there's more to it. But listen, stop acting. I'm going to say it for the last time. You ready? Stop acting. The real you is far more interesting than the actor. The real question is who's going to love the real you and who's going to be confused by it. And I got to tell you, who cares? Because it's so much easier being the real you. Now listen, if you have not been to my website in a while, it's drdoit.com. Please get over there. I want you to sign up for the newsletter. Here's why. When you drop in your email and sign up for the newsletter, you're going to see things and hear things no one else gets to, or at least you're going to hear about them before anyone else does. We have Halloween in a couple days. I follow a lot of you too, not just you following me. I hope I hear your comments, see your funny photos online when Halloween rolls around. I have a Halloween announcement that's coming up in my newsletter for you and only for those newsletter people. At least they're going to hear about it first anyway, something I've been working on. I'm kind of proud of, and I want to share it because I think you'll find it interesting as well. So head over to drdoit.com and check it out. And then make sure to go check out the profile on LinkedIn and see that link over to Amazon where a pre-sale page is ready for Live Hard. I can't wait to share the whole thing with you in the next few weeks. If you're worried today that I didn't get to something you said, I'm sorry, don't worry. There's going to be a video of this posted, and I'm going to follow up with all your comments online as well. You should feel free to reach out on LinkedIn and drop me a question privately. If that works for you, I would love to give you my 10 cents. So I hope you got something out of this. I know I did. I'll see you next time. Thanks.